pushes, rolls the dice. To take a walk, but he stays inside. He's all in love, but he's out of breath. Across the street are as good as dead. And close his eyes, he's breathing deep. No one wants ahead. Run, fat boy, run. And don't even try to make it back. Run, fat boy, run away. Run, fat boy, run. And don't even think of looking back. Run, fat boy, run away. He's the man who's in command. Likes his fries supersized. Brings it in to satisfy. Like he's Superman. At the track he smells the fear. Like a steamroller coming near. A gunshot rings out in the sky. There's a fire in his eyes. Run, fat boy, run. And don't even try to make it back. Run, fat boy, run away. Run, fat boy, run. And don't even think of looking back. Run, fat boy, run away. No time to get up. No time for second place. Come on, fire away. There's only one thing left to be. Come on, fat boy, running. Come on, let it all hang out. Come on, fat boy, running. Come on, give it all you got. Run, fat boy, run. Don't even think you stand a chance. Run, fat boy, run away. Run, fat boy, run. And don't even try to make it back. Run, fat boy, run away. Run, fat boy, run. And don't even think of looking back. Run, fat boy, run away. Where am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be?
Chad, I am Warren Seegers,
And I am Penny Seegers.
and this is probably, we're supposed to be on the air at 8 o'clock. We're getting better. I mean, it used to be, it was like 9 o'clock. We're getting a little bit closer, working out the bugs. We'll get on time on 8 o'clock sooner or later. The music you were listening to during the countdown, though, Mike Urian thought it was Green Day. Yes, they sound a lot like Green Day, but it's not Green Day. It's a group called Paradox with Christian and Jameson Donahue, who are brothers. I can't remember the other guy that's in the group, but Christian was a student of mine. How long ago? When it was Jory in my class.
Do you really want to date yourself like that?
I don't. But Jory was in that class also.
Okay,
my daughter.
so if you're truly wanting to date yourself, it would have been 2011 since you're pushing. Yeah, I mean,
right. Yeah, but those guys are really good, so I highly recommend you check out their album on iTunes. It's called Senior, and the group is Paradox. They're really, really good. These guys could go far. But we also want to say hi to Aunt Donna. How are you doing? Who else is watching? John Yanikov. Thanks for watching, brother. Appreciate it. June 12th. I'm done with the Army. John Overmeyer's watching, and Christine.
Matthew Rush has checked in on House Call. So thanks for checking in and watching.
Which House Call is one of our affiliates. And Bill Almey's watching. But so tonight, our topic is radiant heat. One of the best forms best ways of heating your house that I can say. We've had both, forced air and radiant. Which do you like better?
Oh, radiant heat, by far. Even with the saga that we're about to explain to you, radiant heat, hands down.
So why do you like radiant heat over forced air?
Well, because even though you don't notice the intention of the radiant heat, it's evenly heated.
Through the whole house.
Right, so that's the purpose of it. It's like you don't have cold pockets. So you might complain a little bit, oh, it feels a little chilly in here, but if you feel a little chilly, you feel chilly everywhere.
So you turn it up. Why I like radiant is because of the even heat, but no cold floors. And in northern Indiana, where it gets really cold in the winter, you know, especially on tile floors, nobody likes getting up in the morning to get your Cheerios, and then you step on that floor and it's like, cold. So, and we were reminded, how cold the floors do get.
Right, because it's so subtle that you forget that they're actually warm.
Yeah.
Until they're cold. And then you're like, whoa, what the heck is that?
Hey, Shelly Strom, thanks for watching. As a matter of fact, Shelly, your license plate from Texas is right here. Thanks for sending that in. She said, this has been a while, I think almost a year. She's like, you don't have a Texas license plate up there. And I said, hey, send me one. I'll put it up. So we did.
Yeah, we were still missing a few license plates, a few states. So
I got the hat back.
Oh, there you go.
Like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, you don't want the Army one and the Mickey, apparently.
No, this is my hat. This hat has a lot of memories.
The Mickey fits.
So
anyway,
there's a challenge. People, send us license plates from your state. I'd like to get all the states up here. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. We could always move these. These are, those can go somewhere else. We could get license plates up there from other states.
Yeah.
Be pretty cool.
Let's see. Shelly says, hey, Warren, just need to give you a variety in your plates. Yes, you do. Thank you very much. And, hey, Jamie Stith. How you doing, man? Appreciate you. One of these, appreciate you watching. And one of these days, we're going to get you on here.
As soon as the lockdown is lifted. Yeah. So
until then, I guess we should get on with our show.
Yes,
we're just
we should.
ranting about nothing. But,
no, and I will check the other people watching when we're in a break. But yes, show.
Chuck Osterday's watching.
Oh,
hey, Chuck. How you doing, buddy?
So, radiant heat.
Yes.
We are going to talk about why we chose radiant heat to begin with.
It's cheaper to heat a house this size.
And the saga that we kind of went through last week when our boiler for our radiant heat went down. And while there were, a lot of grumpiness and a lot of cons with that, it also really truly came with a lot of pros. So we're gonna talk about that.
So the first thing, and we're just gonna cover this right now. When you put in radiant heat, if you're going to heat your domestic, that's your hot water for your shower and your sinks and stuff like that, and so you're going to go with the instant with that, and you're going to do instant on your radiant heat. Do not, I repeat, do not buy a combination boiler that does both, because you'll come into the situation that happened to us, and that is the boiler went down, we had no hot water for showers, and we had no hot water to heat the house, and we were just sucking, and it went on for 7 days straight before we got it resolved.
Thank goodness we didn't have to go anywhere because we weren't public presentable for 7 days.
I know, right? Thank goodness this house is so big because, you know, we could social distance, double social distance.
Even
one for
from each
Corona,
other.
the other one was just for smell. So,
and Zoom meetings thankfully does have the option of turning the camera off.
so, and then, yeah, exactly.
You don't want to see me today, trust me.
So what was the other thing I was going to say about the radiant heat? So we got two, well, we just installed two, and we're going to show, at the end of this show, we are actually going to show you the new system and some video of the progress of it. But in this show particularly, we are going to go through the story from when we put our first system in up until today. So this has some clips from our TV show called Edifice Venture. And just to get, it has a lot of information also about how it works and why it works so
why
well.
don't we go ahead and show the first clip?
Yep, absolutely. Let's take a look at it.
It's December 21st, and Warren is already out on Christmas break as a teacher. Now the kids still have school today, so we are taking full advantage of the day out here without the kids. We are doing some insulation up here in the studio and office areas today because here in northern Indiana, it's cold. See my getup? So the more that we can insulate and block off rooms, the easier it's going to be to hold in some heat and work out here.
We are insulating the building with texture-fine fiberglass insulation by Anco Products, which is recognized by engineers, contractors, and architects for its high tensile strength and resiliency. We like it because it's easy to install. Each roll is cut to fit between the 16-inch on-center studs on its own. That's right, no staples required. The only needed tool is a utility knife. Simply roll it out, place it in the studs, and cut to length. Those areas that are smaller than 16-inch on center, not a problem. We just cut it to size and tuck it in.
When you open one of these up, it kind of reminds me of a marshmallow in a microwave.
As we put the insulation up, we realized we were missing one important item for our quest for heat: a heater. The only heating element we had was a salamander, and that was neither efficient or proving to be safe.
It's about burnt my leg because it was burning the rubber on my boots.
What was burning the rubber on your boots?
The big heater back here.
After doing a little research, we concluded we had two options for heating the building: forced air and radiant heat. We knew with forced air we would need a minimum of 2 heating units and have to add all new ducts. We also found on a building this size, forced air would not be very efficient. The only thing we knew about radiant heat is that it would be more efficient than forced air. How it works and how it is installed left a lot of questions in our minds. A friend, Naomi Green, suggested Penny call Nibco, a local company to us but known worldwide for its radiant heat products. Penny met with Randy Doring and Don Ford to explain our heating dilemma. With our project being somewhat unusual, Dawn wanted to come out to see the building before she started working on the plans for our radiant system. The current structure of the building would dictate how the radiant heat would be installed.
There are several different methods in which you can use to install a radiant system. You can install it into a concrete slab. You can install it between joists. You can also create a thin slab, like for a first floor, and it doesn't create as much weight on the structure as it would with a full concrete slab, or you can use baseboard heaters.
Our project will require 3 of the 4 methods of installation and will be completed in 3 phases. The staple-up method between the joists will be used on the mid-level in Phase 1. In Phase 2 of the upper level, baseboard heaters will be installed. Phase 3 will require a new slab to be poured after the radiant system is installed in the lower level of the building. On July 13, 2010, our radiant heat system for all 3 stages was delivered. I was a little surprised that everything fit in one van. I imagined it would be delivered on a semi with boxes and boxes of parts that I would find confusing, but that wasn't the case. All of a sudden I felt at ease and confident that Penny and I would be able to learn how to install a staple-up radiant heat system and complete the job ourselves.
And we are back. So what's really interesting about this video, up here in the top floor, we do have the baseboard heating going on, which is great, works perfect. I think it's because it heats the second floor, all that heat's rising up. It doesn't really make a difference, baseboard or floor. And we just started on the slab radiant heat in the basement, and we have some pictures of that we're going to show here at the end of the show. But I just like it. It's really, really simple to install. So let's go ahead and take a real quick break. Then we come back, we're going to show the second part of the history of the radiant heat in our house.
All right.
All right, stay tuned.
Ethan and Gizmo, best friends since July 7, 2011. Chris and Luna have been best friends for 2 years. Riley and Frankie have been best friends since 2017. Beth and Thurza, best friends since 2017. Your next best friend is waiting for you at the Elkhart County Humane Society. For more information on adoption, visit elkharthumanesociety.org.
And we are back on the tool shed. I'm Warren Seegers.
And I'm Penny Seegers,
Imagine that. Both names are Seegers, right?
forced co-host.
Hey, forced co-host. She's been voluntold. So anyway, I want to say hey to Dana Drebeck, Regis out there watching. Appreciate it, brother. Ronnie, the neighbor across the street. Crystal's watching. Ed Shepard and Jana. Thanks for watching. Appreciate everybody watching the show. So, I'm not sure what the next clip really is. I think that goes more into showing us how we were installing it.
With like the when we were doing the rad tracks,
Right.
and the coiling,
Right.
underneath.
So we were showing out how to do a staple-up system. So a staple-up system
Right.
uses these things called rad tracks, and then you weave the PEX in between.
Right, because a lot of people, I think, and us included, when we first went and were researching radiant heat systems, we thought because we were leaving the wood floors on the main level, or what is considered the main level for us, that we weren't going to be able to do radiant heat because we weren't going to pour any cement there. But there are options for radiant heat when you're leaving a floor intact. So if you have a basement underneath that doesn't have drywall, there are the staple up systems with the rad tracks and the coils. It's a little more labor intensive, as you're gonna see in the clip we're gonna show, but
Right.
it can be done. So I mean, you can do what do they call that when you're it can be retrofitted into a existing,
And that's actually what a staple up is for retrofitting
right.
into a current home.
Right. So, if anybody has any questions as to, why we chose the radiant heat and how we feel about it, definitely post those comments, because, one of the things that we're really finding, people ask us all the time, like our building here, it's 7,000 square feet. We don't have the bottom level done yet. So that's still going to be an additional, that's 2,400 square feet that's not quite finished yet. However, the part that we are heating, that is done and is heated, is about 4,000 square feet. And even with that, our gas bill, we're on the budget plan. But even on the budget plan, we only pay $143 a month for our gas.
Right. Which is better than our house
for
in Goshen that
4,000,
had
right.
forced air.
Right, for 4,000 square feet. I mean, that's like so efficient, and like that is leaving our thermostat on, I think, 70 to 72, and that
Right.
sounds high, but when you're doing radiant heat, you got to understand that you're heating the air not up here, because with forced air it's all rising and you're hoping it's going to fall back down. You're always heating
From the
here,
ground level
up. So it's actually not that
Right.
hot.
So let's say I'm going to say hi to Tatiana, Skylar. Thanks for watching, and also Tim. Thanks for watching. So before we explain and go on to us talking about it, let's go ahead and see the next clip. It'll explain everything on how to install
the retrofit. But my point was, if you just have any couple questions about the radiant heat and the efficiency, definitely post those.
Post them, whatever
comments.
you're watching it on, whether it's Edifice Venture, my page, Gutter Guard, who else?
Right.
Yeah, just post it in the comments there, and we'll bring it up and talk about it. All right. So here is the next phase of what we did for our radiant heat installation.
July 14th, 2010. The NIPCO Radiant Heat team came to the building to train us on how to install a staple-up system. We were excited to learn something new and somewhat on the cutting edge. I say new and cutting edge, but radiant heat has been around for a long time.
The biggest difference between the old way of doing radiant, like in the early 1900s, versus the modern way that radiant is done today is that you're not going to have a big cast iron radiator like you would at your grandma's house, where it's out in the open, it takes up a lot of space.
Today's radiant heating systems use the floor as the main emitter. And that's what transfers heat into the room. So the entire floor of your home would be warm.
Now radiant is completely unseen, except for usually in a mechanical room where you'll have your parts.
Before starting, NIPCO assessed the area one more time to make sure everything was ready for installation.
The first task is to install the radiant heat transfer plates. These are metal plates about 4 feet long and 4 or 6 inches wide, which attach to the bottom of the subfloor. They conduct heat from the tubing to the floor that you're heating.
Installing the plates was a fairly easy job. The only tools needed were ladders and drills. We worked in teams of 2. One person would hold the plate while the other person would set the screws. Each plate has 6 screws to attach them to the underside of the subfloor with screws. Proper placement of the plates is important.
When you're placing the transfer plate in between the joists, you want to create a gap in between them. You don't want to place them end to end, butt them up end to end. So anywhere from a 1 to a 6 inch gap is suffice, and it just depends upon the length of the entire bay that you're working in. You'll configure how many you need. These are standard 4-foot length transfer plates. And once you have that, then it'll give you some playroom to know how many you'll need and how much room that you can have in between both of them. What can happen if you place the transfer plates end to end to where they're touching is it could create a click noise or chatter. You want to have about an inch from each joist. It just allows so that way when we're running the tubing, you want to have an 8-inch center, and this would be a standard 16-inch joist bay. So that way when you're bending it, it provides for an 8-inch bend.
It took all morning to put the plates up in one section, but finally the last screw went in. So what was the next step?
We need to feed the tubing through the joists and weave it in and out of the plates and snap it in.
Installing the PEX tubing went much quicker than installing the heat transfer plates. A complete run is called a loop. The start of a loop is called the send, and the end of a loop, the return. The send and return always originate in the same location, creating a loop. A loop cannot exceed 250 feet. The installation of the PEX tubing was moving along smooth. I couldn't believe how simple it was and how few tools were needed. Only ladders and a drill were needed to put the heat transfer plates up. The PEX tubing portion of the project only added a hammer to the tool list. It was needed to hit the nails in that held the talons up. Talons are hooks much like wire staples, but bigger. They hold the PEX send and return runs to the wall, keeping them organized and untangled. As we were installing the system, Penny and I wondered how radiant actually heats the home and why it's more efficient than forced air.
Forced air, or scorched air as we call it in the radiant heating industry, moves hot air into your room and then moves cold air out and cycles that way. It's constantly blowing hot, dry air into your home.
With radiant heat systems, it's a little bit different. you're heating the objects in a room. So the best analogy that I could give you is kind of like on a fall day and it's cloudy and you're outside and there's a break in the clouds and the sun comes through. And when the sun hits your face, you feel immediate warmth. Now the temperature of the air hasn't changed during that time period, but you feel a lot more comfortable because of that radiant heat from the sun is hitting your face. The same way in a home, when you put a radiant heat system in your home, it will heat the floor, your furniture, the objects in the room, and is a much more comfortable system.
Once the plates were up and the PEX tubing run, it was time to mount the manifolds. There are 2 manifolds, one for the send and one for the return. A large PEX tube will run from the heating element to the send manifold where the loops begin. We are only showing one for demonstration purposes. The return manifold receives the loops returning and feeds into another large PEX tube that runs back to the heating element to reheat the cooled water. Once the manifolds were installed and the completed loops connected, our training session was over and we were left to complete the staple up ourselves.
We decided we're going to put this in a panorama box so it looks like a piece of modern art.
So we had a lot of plates to put up, followed by a lot of PEX to run. How do we keep our motivation up with a job this size? Make it fun.
What I'm going to do is give us a challenge that we finish this whole section right here in 60 minutes. And here's how I suggest we do it. You help me hold them and just screw them into place. And then we'll start from the outside and work and meet in the middle and put all the screws in.
The total area we were working on was 2,400 square feet. We already completed 600 square feet, leaving 1,800 square feet. The home theater was getting baseboard heaters, so we can subtract another 600 square feet, which left 1,200 square feet for us to work on. Oh yeah, that doesn't include the 280 square feet for the kitchen. This may take a little longer than we thought to complete. We finally finished and completed a complete zone, which was a total of 1,200 square feet of the original 2,400 square feet.
So that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, out of the 3 different ways, you got the baseboard, you got the staple up, and then you have the slab. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, so far, I think the slab is easier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The slab, I would say definitely you would believe it because that's the typical way to do radiant heat
Right.
is the slab.
But you got to understand, the typical way is they have cement trucks that come in and actually pour that
that's
over
true.
on one complete pour. Unlike us, we're literally doing strips of cement. It looks like we're building these weird sidewalks in our basement. We have pictures of that coming up here at the end of the show also to show you what we're doing. But
And there's actually 2 reasons for that. It's not
great,
just...
can I finish
okay,
my
sorry.
thought? Thank you, honey.
Maybe.
The reason it's much easier is because you twist these things into this styrofoam insulation and then you snap the lines in. There's no weaving, no
Right.
screwing. It's really quick and fast. Now you can say what you got to say.
I was just going to say the reason that we're doing the concrete in sections instead of bringing in a big old truck with concrete is 1, cost, and 2, I don't know that we'd be able to, because we've talked about that before, of whether or not a truck would be able to bring in
A truck would be able to normally.
The slurry into the middle of the building.
Right. Normally you can use concrete, but when they use concrete, that is when they're doing a slab build. And they put all the PEX out ahead of time,
Right.
and then they pour the whole slab, and then they build the house on top.
Right.
We had a house here.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I just didn't say it as nicely
Right,
as
but you said slurry, which is something different.
Oh, see.
That's called, I love it when she tries to talk like an expert. And I'm going, yeah, you're kind of close, but you're not exactly right. So the slurry...
I wasn't even close. He's just being nice.
So the slurry is usually what they bring in on a retro. They don't do cement. The
Got it.
slurry comes in, it's called gypcrete. Okay, and they get these big, huge trucks. It's like they're blowing really thin watery drywall mixture on the ground. And the reason they do that on a rehab, like what we're doing, is because it will just fill in and it evens and levels itself out. The problem with that is it's really expensive. Now, on our old house in Goshen, it wouldn't have been that bad, but we're talking a building that is 60 feet by 40 feet. And the cost was almost, when I priced it out, $25,000 to $30,000. Although that would have been nice, but out of our budget.
Right.
So.
Right.
All right, so let's go to the next clip of telling the history of our installation of radiant heat, and then after that, we'll show you what we've just done in the past week.
Today is Labor Day 2010, and we are going to be putting the labor in Labor Day by finishing all the prep work for our radiant heat. Now, to date, we've put in over 2,000 screws in our heat transfer plates. We have about 500 more to go. The other things that we're going to do today is we're going to drill all of our holes for the tubing to make our runs, and we're also going to get rid of any screws that have the potential of poking through the tubing. That way, when we're ready to run tubing, we can just go.
After putting the last screw in the last plate, we did the math again.
We have put in 497 heat transfer plates. At 6 screws per plate, that equals, ta-da, a grand total of 2,982 screws.
It may seem like a lot of work to install a staple-up radiant heat system for a building this size, but a forced air system would have been much more difficult. We like the fact each loop can be controlled by an independent valve and is a continuous run from send to the return. We feel we made the right choice with radiant heat for the many benefits it holds.
The main benefit to a radiant heating system is the comfort. But in addition to that, it is a more efficient system of heating than forced air. And one reason for that is that you're using the medium of water to transfer the heat from one place to another, from the heat source to the room. And water is much easier to pump than air. You'll notice that your ducts on a forced air system may be a foot or two wide, whereas with radiant heating, you're only pushing water through a pipe that's maybe 1 inch in diameter.
We're not going to have the allergens and dust and things like that flying all around the house through the ductwork like you're going to have with a forced air system. So it's perfect for people that are a little bit older, as well as small children. Anybody who suffers with allergies, radiant is by far top choice over forced air for health benefits.
Another reason radiant heating is more efficient than forced air is that because you're much more comfortable and you don't have hot air blowing around the home, people tend to set their thermostats 2 or 3 degrees cooler, and they're still very comfortable. So every degree that you drop your thermostat means you save money on your heating bill.
One thing that Tom Coe mentioned is absolutely true is what? Because I know you're like the thermostat miser. You can't have it up too hot because we got to save money. So.
Well, normally yes, but really I'm more of the thermostat miser because if it gets too, it's almost like sometimes it gets a little too hot in some of the rooms because of the hot flashes.
Nobody else is experiencing the environment her temperatures are at, so but you could easily, very easily turn it down a couple of degrees and it would still be very, very, very comfortable. Yeah. Randy in the video, he makes the greatest analogy about what radiant heat is like. When we didn't have heat in the basement, literally when you came up the stairs from the basement, into the main floor. As soon as you crossed that top floor, it was like you walked into a wall of heat.
Yeah.
And the analogy he uses, I think, says it all. It's like when you're in the shade in the summer and it's 80 degrees outside. In the shade, it doesn't feel 80. But as soon as you step into the sunlight, you feel warmer. The temperature is still the same. There's no difference.
Right.
So, anyway, we're going to take a break. And then we're going to come back and we're going to reveal where our new instant water boilers and some of the work that we've been doing. So don't go anywhere. Stay here.
You begin as one. One person, one commitment. You sign the dotted line. You become part of something greater. Your service begins. Your mission begins. Your circle grows. You are supported by a network that understands. You return, but it doesn't stop there. Your exit is only the beginning. Your network continues to grow. You are connected to a legacy of blood, sweat, and tears, and with them, your service continues. Your new mission, fight to preserve the rights our brothers and sisters have earned. From enacting great change on Capitol Hill to providing much-needed support to America's veterans, military families, and our local communities, our strength lies within the heart of each individual member. We began as one. Now we are the millions who have served. We are the voice for veterans everywhere, and together we cannot be ignored.
And we're back. Before we see those clips, I want to say hi to a few people that are watching out there. David Taylor, Thomas Staub, John Litke, Mike Urian, and let's see, who else do I have over here? Jory. Hi, Jory.
Hi, Jory.
You didn't come over today for lunch. That's our daughter, by the way.
Laundry. She was going to come over for laundry today, not lunch.
And Jim Hagan and Steve Clark, thanks also for watching.
And if you guys are watching on Garden House Flags, House Call, or One Gutter Guard, those are our affiliates that we're streaming to tonight. Make sure you hit that like button or comment, because then we'll call out to YouTube. But like and follow, because we'd love to be able to recognize that you're watching.
I think you ought to just like those other affiliates because they have great products.
Well, yeah, that too. Absolutely like and follow their pages. Those affiliates will know you're watching, and they could send you some stuff as well.
Yep. So let's go ahead and roll the video of what we just done, like in the last 2 weeks, basically, and then we'll comment.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
A 2-week saga.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Sound like a Tweety bird. So let's go ahead and roll that, and then we'll watch it ourselves, and then we'll comment on it. All right, so that is one of the old video clips. Okay, here we go. So, and then we are, woo! I love it.
Roller coaster.
All right, so what you're seeing here, that is what I had originally installed into that. That's 2 pumps. The 4th pump wasn't connected. This is another side where the manifolds, everything went in. So look how ugly that is. It worked. There was nothing wrong with it. It worked, but just not done very neatly. There is the old crappy dual boiler that we just took out. And these are pictures of Coy and Zane taking the old system out. We reuse those pumps, but we just want to put them all on the same wall. Penny, you still here?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. I'm here, but I was hiding up in my office during all this time, and letting you guys suffer.
Always the first person to comment on the work, but never around when we're doing it.
While you guys were suffering in the cold basement,
Yeah.
I was up in my office learning and watching real estate webinars.
So that right there, what Coy is taking off a wall, that is what we used to need that would turn on the pump. So there's everything stripped off the walls. But that thing that he was taking off, that was a zone controller, and for the old system, we actually had to use that. With the new system, we do not need it. Now, this is Troy Gann. He's the person that installed our system. That right there is actually the water heater.
And Troy is from Benton Mechanicals. He was like great with on-demand water heaters. So
Yeah, highly
if you have-
recommend him.
if
Right
you
there
need maintenance,
is, and right there is the, that is what's heating the floorboards. That actually is our heating system. That right there is that wall, that big mess that you've seen earlier. That is how we've cleaned it up. So we went from that to the previous picture that you've seen. And then we also, since we had the whole system drained, we had Coy and Zane to install more rad tracks in underneath the home theater. This is downstairs. This is the slab, and you can see it looks like we're putting weird sidewalks into our basement, but that's how we're actually pouring the concrete. It just makes it a lot easier. So there's Coy's room before any cement. And then you'll see that we put the far side in. We did one run there, and then we filled in between these two boards closest to you on the TV. And then what we'll do is we'll pull those boards out and we'll fill in that center strip. So that's the reason why we're doing it like sidewalk.
Right. I was wondering if the boards, will you pull those boards out or will you just leave those in there because it's just extra support?
Right. But here's the problem. You could leave those in, okay, but wood expands and contracts when it heats up or cools down. Cement, not so much.
Okay.
And if we put tiles on there, you do have the possibility of the boards expanding
and then
just causing problems.
And popping those tiles up.
Plus, I don't want to keep recutting boards. If I use the same boards on the side, we know that they're exactly the same height so that we're keeping an even pour all the way across.
Okay.
When we do the middle strip, since we pull those boards out, our screed board is long enough to go over both sides of the concrete, and we're making it even across in the middle.
Okay.
And that's why we're doing it that way.
Okay.
In reality, I would have much rather poured a slurry because I wouldn't have done it. Would have been a company come in. I wish we could afford to do that. It'd be much quicker, faster, and not me working. So.
Yeah.
All right.
But.
Well, that's our show. Hey, Greg, thanks for watching. And Jacob Clark, thanks for watching also. I think it's actually Clark Jacob. Jacob Clark, Clark Jacob. You got two first names or two last names. Maybe he'll respond here and let us know. Jennifer, thanks for watching. And that kind of does it for our show tonight. I don't even know what we're going to talk about next week.
Well, do we ever know until it's like...
Hey, we didn't know we were talking about till like, what, 24 hours prior?
Well, you thought it was Thursday yesterday, so you're lucky it wasn't Thursday yesterday.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was Friday today.
And today, I forgot it was show day. So, hopefully next week, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think.
Julian Showalter, how are you? It's been a long time since Africa. She was on a deployment with me.
Okay.
Air Force. Hoorah. And I do believe she was combat camera. If I remember correctly, she worked with Shelley Branch.
Oh.
So
Fun.
good to see people watching the show that I was mobilized with. And I'm bragging again. June 12th, I'm out of the military. Retired. Whoop, whoop. So, anyway, a couple things that we're going to be incorporating to the show. You're official. You are the co-host. You'll be on every show with me.
I was voluntold.
Voluntold. Let's face it. You're a ham. You like to be noticed. She does.
I shouldn't be touching my face.
Oh yeah. Don't touch your face.
Don't touch mine.
So Coy also, he's still working on the big wind chime made out of air canisters. So he's doing the EVH2s. We'll get those going. And I want to start incorporating every week at the end of the show, we are going to give you an update of our current project.
If you guys have, show ideas of things you'd like us to maybe talk about, it has to be something that has to do with home ownership or home DIY.
And pie.
It's not going to do with pie, because that would involve me possibly
I'm
having
hungry.
to bake, and that's not going to...
Hey, your apple strudel, though, the other day.
The apple crisp?
Apple crisp.
That was a fluke.
Good.
That was a total fluke. I was just trying to use the apples before they went bad, and I actually had time. But don't get used to me being in the kitchen, because I don't like it in the kitchen.
Hey, Jared, thanks for tuning in. Here's
Anyway.
what I think you did. I think you bought it at Walmart. You threw it into a pan, threw it into the oven, pulled it out, and said, hey, look what I did.
I warmed it up.
I warmed it up. And then you said you made it from scratch. So,
Anyway,
all right.
Okay.
That's our show. Be sure to tune in next week, 8-ish. We're supposed to go live at 8 o'clock, but technical difficulties and, learning equipment and just the internet in general is really quirky now. I think everybody's online. I just want to know how many hours of video have been streamed in the last month compared to 2 months ago. That would be interesting, because I guarantee everybody is just
there's
streaming
going to
like
be
crazy.
some interesting quarantine data that's
yeah.
going to come out of this.
Yeah.
So
Netflix and YouTube is not hating this. No. It's good for business for them.
No. The best thing that I came up with last week was business attire redefined, pajama pants, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Hey, Barker, thanks for watching. Another person I know from the Army. It's like a big family army reunion or military reunion, because a lot of these people,
Okay. Well, we need to wrap it up.
Yes, we do.
Thank you for everybody that was watching.
Yes, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, tune in every Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on Facebook for the Tool Shed Live. I'm Warren Seegers. Say goodnight, Penny.
Good night, Gracie. Good night, Gracie.
No, you're supposed to say goodnight, Penny.
Oh, good night, Penny. Oh, I'm not Gracie.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.